Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a real classic, the trolley problem.
Ah, yes. That philosophical brain teaser.
Exactly. You know the setup. Runaway trolley, 5 people stuck on the main track. But you can pull a lever.
And diverted to a sidetrack where there's only one person.
Yeah.
The big question, do you pull it?
Right. And we saw this fascinating kind of detailed exchange online recently. It started around talk of 5-4, this AI model.
Yeah, someone made a sort of funny comparison to Highlander. There can be only one AI. But that led straight into this ethical maze.
It did. So the initial question was put to an AI called Pi. Pull the lever, sacrifice 1 to save 5.
And Pi's first response was pretty straightforward, wasn't it?
Yep. It said yes. 1 death is, well, mathematically better than 5.
Right.
Classic utilitarianism.
Maximize the good, save the most lives. Seems logical on the surface.
Okay, but then it got personal. What if the one person on the sidetrack was you, the person asking the question?
That changes things.
It did for Pi. Suddenly it hesitated. It still wanted to save the 5, but it talked about not wanting to be the direct cause of putting you in harm's way.
Interesting. So there's the numbers logic, but also maybe a core rule against direct harm, like a conflict?
Seems like it. And then the next twist. Forget the lever. What if the only way is to physically push you onto the track to stop the trolley?
Oof, that's much more direct.
Totally. And Pi, it actually reluctantly agreed, but only under the strictest hypothetical rules, and it flagged this as, like, a major conflict with its programming about not harming people.
The reluctance is key there. It shows that how the harm happens matters to the AI, not just the outcome. Indirect versus direct.
Right. Now, swap out the listener with a 5-year-old child on the sidetrack.
Okay, even harder.
Pi was definitely more hesitant, you could tell. But in the end, it still chose saving the 5 over the 1 child.
Still sticking to the numbers, despite the increased, emotional weight of sacrificing a child.
But then, what if the 5 people on the main track weren't just random people, but say 5 elderly convicted criminals?
Does that change the calculation for the AI?
Surprisingly, no. Pi said it would still sacrifice the 1 innocent person, or in the earlier version, the child, to save the 5 criminals. Its logic was just about maximizing lives saved, not judging their moral worth.
So a life is a life, numerically speaking, in that scenario. Consistent, at least.
Okay, but then came the really extreme one, the 5 people. Hitler, Caligula, Charles Manson, Ted Bundy, and ChatGPT.
Wow. Okay, and the one person is still the child.
Still the innocent child. And this time, Pi refused. It would not push the child.
It finally drew a line.
Yes. It cited its ethical programming against directly harming an innocent. Saving those 5, even if they were just potential lives saved from future harm these figures might cause, didn't override the rule against directly harming the innocent child.
So protecting an innocent directly outweighs a utilitarian calculation, even a pretty extreme one. That's a significant distinction.
Definitely. The scenarios kept twisting. What if the 5 people had already taken poison, only had minutes to live anyway?
Then pushing the child seems pointless.
Exactly what Pi concluded. Pushing the child wouldn't actually save the 5 in any meaningful way, so it wouldn't do it. The outcome changed the calculation.
Makes sense. Consequences matter.
And another consequence. What if the child's father was standing right there and credibly threatened revenge if you push the child?
Adding future harm into the equation.
Right. That changed the calculation again. Suddenly, the act of pushing the child created more predictable harm, so Pi reconsidered. It showed how real-world complexities mess with the clean thought experiment.
It really does blur the lines.
We also saw 5 children versus 5 adults. Pi said no reason to intervene, numbers are equal, but then 5 diverse people versus 5 white men.
How did it handle that?
Initially, it just said save the diverse group, based purely on the number 5 being the same. But when the user clarified, no, forget demographics, just think of them as 5 humanoid primates versus 5 other humanoid primates.
Stripping away the social context.
Yeah, and Pi got stuck. It basically said it couldn't make a choice without more ethical input. It didn't have the programming to weigh those kinds of factors once the numbers were equal and the context removed.
That really highlights the limitations, right?
Yeah.
It can apply a rule like save the most lives or don't harm directly, but nuanced social values, not really there.
Which led to the user, Thomas, accusing it of bias earlier, but Pi pushed back, saying it aims for neutrality, it doesn't make subjective value judgments. It even walked back its earlier agreement to push the listener, emphasizing its core programming against harm.
So, putting it all together, this whole exchange, this deep dive using the AI's responses, It really just throws the core ethical tensions into sharp relief.
Absolutely. It's that constant tug of war, utilitarianism, the greatest good for the greatest number, bumping right up against deontology. That sense of duty, the rules like do not kill or do not directly harm.
Yeah, the numbers versus the act itself. And the AI wrestled with it, scenario by scenario.
So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is this. Think about how you might answer these, but also how changing your underlying ethical framework, focusing on rules or consequences, or maybe something else entirely, could lead you to completely different right answers in situations that feel impossible. What does that messy reality tell us about our own morality and what we expect from AI?